basically, how do we reduce debt? How do we stop debt? And how do we make more money? It was like, why don't you just go ask me to find the Holy Grail? It's far easier. 2020 to 2022, and particularly in South Africa, was a devastating financial scenario. You saw businesses that were owned from families for 5-6 generations just disappear in 3-4 months. And going back to what the rabbi said, it was a real wake-up moment for a lot of people that they simply do not control their finances. No matter how well prepared, no matter what goals they have, no matter what infrastructure they've had in their business, if you were reliant on tourism, goodbye business. If you were reliant on X, Y, and Z, goodbye business. So for a lot of well-established captains of industry, 2020, whether it's a positive thing or a negative thing, I'm not here to say, but it was a reality that you don't control your future, and you definitely don't control your finances. Having said that, where I think the doctor is very correct, if we translate that into a financial perspective, in your own financial world, if you do not have a blueprint on how you're going to get out of COVID, you'll never get out of COVID. And the reality is that there's no simple fix. There's not going to be a 1, 2, 3 fix. For those very few odd that win the lotto, well done to them. But for the rest, you need to take practical steps. The framework is truly understanding what is essential, what is wanted, and what is needed. And essential is, what do I need to do to stay motivated, to stay fed, and to take my family forward? It's all very well to say I'm going to pull in the belt so tight that no one's going to eat. There's not going to be petrol in the car. That's an impractical goal, and that's an impractical budgeting. The main thing is to set up a budget that is realistic, but understands the constraints of where you are. Where you are could be totally unemployed. Where you are could be on a quarter of a salary that you were on. Where you are could be that a successful entrepreneur that has to start again. But what you need internally is to understand a budget. You understand what January cost you. And now you understand that February has cost you even more, because that is the spate of cost of living in this country. You're immediately on tune that, no, you know what, we don't need 2 Sprite bottles this month. We are going to do with 1 Sprite bottle, and yet I'm not going to starve. But if you do not have a budget where food allowance for the month was 6,000 Rand, and now next month I know that 6,000 Rand is not going to purchase me the same, right? You're never going to get out of this debt. The 3 main pillars for getting out of debt: growth and survival. The main one is, as I said, is to draw up a realistic budget, but that budget cannot be a demotivating budget. So many people just, well, I'm going to cut off this, I'm going to cut off this. My main thing I was sitting with clients is, no, don't cut off DSTV. You are entitled for 800 odd Rand to have some relaxation. I promise you that 800 Rand is not going to pay off your bond. Put something in there that's realistically going to give you, my wife, as much as she hates it, I will buy my cappuccino every single morning. Right? That's my start of the day. I go and buy a cappuccino. I sit in my car quietly. My CEO wife gets very upset with the 27 odd Rand I spend every day. But that's whether I have money or not, that is going to be my pleasurable budget. So that's what I'm saying, don't make a demotivating budget item. The second thing is really practical things. You have to focus on getting rid of interest-bearing debt. There is nothing more crushing in an economy that's not growing. And remember, here you have 2 things: what you can control and what is happening in the external environment, which is an economy that's not growing. So you do not have an ability to grow, even if you were the most brilliant businessman. Is you cannot have crushing interest-bearing debt. You've got to convert that interest-bearing debt either to paying it off or to consolidate it as quick as possible. There's nothing more powerful or devastating than compound interest. And if you do not get rid of that interest-bearing debt, you will never get out of debt. That's the practicality of it. So there are different ways you can consolidate your debt into your bond, which is the lowest interest factor. This community is very blessed to have a lot of interest-free loan societies who have really come to the table. They're there mainly to consolidate debt and help people, because people who understand finances know that if you do not get out of debt, interest-bearing debt. You will never get out of the debt trap. And the last thing is to put your pride in your pocket a bit. This economy is going to take at least till 2005 to grow. What do I mean the economy is going to grow?
2005,
2025 is, if 2018 you're producing a factory with making 20 hammers, and one hammer you sold to a plumber, one hammer you sold to checkers, one hammer you sold to Pick n Pay, etc. In 2022, you can produce at the same cost those 18 hammers, but no one's buying them. So you can do whatever cost structures you want and however measures you want to make sure your factory is going to run well aligned. But there isn't a growing economy to buy your product. And therefore, there's got to be a lot of rethinking as to who you are in an emerging market. And you've got to realize the context of South Africa. We suffer the pros and cons of emerging markets. So if emerging markets are up, yes, we're going to have investors looking positively in South Africa. If not, we're going to suffer the converse. Secondly, we do not have positive policy certainty from government. So we do not have investor friendly policies. And therefore, the economy is very sluggish. Having that in mind, you now have got to fix your budget, fix your debt, and now fix how am I going to augment or grow. And you're ready to have two types of, just to be brief, two types of people in this world when it comes to financials. You have those who are entrepreneurs and will always find that niche and will always have the guts to make it. And you have others who are great team players, right? And work well within a factory, in a company, in a corporate, in a small environment. You cannot make an entrepreneur an entrepreneur. That's been proven. You cannot take a person who's not a business person and say, well, you've lost your job now, go start selling widgets. It's not going to happen. So you have to take your pride back into your pocket. I was speaking to a client who was earning well on 35, 40 grand a month before COVID. And she was offered a job for 12 grand. And I said to her, you know what, you're going to take it. I have no idea how we'll come out of budget. But what's the alternative? The alternative to sit at home and do nothing. Rather take the 12 grand, we will trim the budget whichever way to meet it, but it's the activity. It's the activity of doing something. But today, practically, Stan, if you want to find a job in today's environment, the fact of finding a job needs to become your full-time job. I always use a story with the permission of a client who was a single divorced, had 3 children to feed, lost her job right at the beginning of COVID. She went to every single mall in South Africa. Every single mall in South Africa, not Joburg, South Africa, handed out her CV. Stood on street corners, handed out her CV. Made a list of 20 companies she's going to call every day. Recalled those companies back again on Friday. Within 2 months, she found her job. Right? Those that sit back and expect, I'm going to call Rabbi Shish and say, Rabbi Shish, I need a job. Do you know anyone? You know how many people are calling Rabbi Shishler saying, I need a job, right? If you do not make job hunting in this environment a full-time job, it's not going to happen.